Hi, welcome back to Reality Check, Community Conversation, and Coffee. We're back and we're ready to just keep the community updated to the news and what's going on out here. Just being vigilant and what's taking place right in front of our eyes. And we need to see those things. So I'm here with
Andrew Rhodes.
and we're just gonna be discussing some things today that you would probably love to discuss with us. But hey, we're all gonna discuss it anyway. So we're gonna get started. Andrew, let's talk about the gerrymandering that's taking place. I know that's a control mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
and let's just talk about that for a little while to give our community views, some updates of what's taking place with that and why it's happening. It's
Well,
not necessary.
but the why goes back a long way because even to the point where it goes past what redistricting and not past, but it's all part of a system that was created by Republicans just to make sure. And back during the game, it was a system to put us out of the system, you know, and you have to go back to the
For power.
for power, yeah. And you have to go back with the 14th to 15th Amendment, where we at that time when they were created, we were uh, put in a position where we could vote, and our votes mattered. But as time went on, and I'll say the folks in the South who wanted to maintain their power, because a lot of the not just the gerrymandering, but just to keep us from voting, and
So
now.
they're changed district, redistrict
Mm-hmm.
houses and land.
And
Yeah, just to
well, they didn't change where the places were. They changed where the people were voting, which meaning that with the gerrymandering going on, it is to weaken our power to be able to select people to represent us.
that look
Okay,
like
that look like us. And again, uh, it's very hard, say, in a place like New Orleans, Washington, D.C., all of those places, because we're talking about chocolate cities.
Right. Yes.
So if you can reach one place to the other, but you're gonna always find a handful of us. So uh, and but what they've done in rural areas is to make sure that, hey, we're gonna make sure that they can hold on to what they have. Rural areas have sometimes a bigger population more than that of inner city, but they're trying to move some of the inner city into into their strongholds, and that's where the gerrymandering come in. For as long as I could remember, by and not knowing what the political process was. But the first thing that happened when I was growing up, my dad made sure I got a card so I could vote. Okay. But we often say that our votes don't matter, but it is some folks, not all of us. Okay. But it doesn't matter because of gerrymandering. It doesn't matter because our districts are split so that we cannot even put to the ballots in a lot of areas where we can get somebody to run for office that look like us, So that's not just the process now. That process, it goes all the way back to Reconstruction. It goes all the way back to Reconstruction when we had black folks that were put in office, and next thing you know, here come the black laws. The black laws, many of which were to keep us disenfranchised, to be able to vote, to be able to get work. Although we did get work, uh, but it didn't stop people from hurting and killing us. You know, it didn't stop people from because again, if you know the history a little bit, goes back to well, we ain't got no slaves, but we got some folks in jail, and uh, you know we had to pay poll taxes. We were we had to deal with the well, if your grandfather can vote, if my grandfather at that time was a slave, and that meant I couldn't vote. He wasn't able to vote. So that means that my children, and I'm going back a little bit by, but it's the history. It's the history of it. And that, well, if I can't vote, then my children, because their grandfather is my daddy, you see. So they use that grandfathering rule until we got to the point that that clause actually meant nothing. I mean, we had been here for 300 years, but we never owned anything. 300, 400 years. So we were still property.
It was grandfathered in certain conditions. And
yeah. We didn't have property at the time because our fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, whatever, women wasn't even considered at the time. Let's just get that straight. No, women was not even considered at that time.
You're all right with that.
So yeah, you know the bad thing about it is not even white women.
Right.
You know, and they don't understand that that the suppressive rules that was used against us also applied to them.
Yeah, the women, the women movement was
exactly.
You know,
what was it when women got the right to vote in 1964 or something like that? You know,
they need the right to vote and they need rights in their home.
Yeah,
and all those things. Yeah. And we as women, black women, we had rights in our home. We didn't have the right to vote. It wasn't our man that kept us from voting. It was the system that kept us from voting. So we had the right to vote, you know, on our own merit.
I want to refer back by I told you about this, and the two black women that I love so dearly, of course, they're not here anymore, was my mom and my Viola. And at 17 years old, for which I wasn't even born, okay, they were out there picketing the St. Bernard courthouse. They had a picture then. I have to find that picture. But they were out there picketing for the rights for women to vote. Now my mom was,
and that was way back then.
And my mom was 17. I think my aunt Viola was like 19 at the time. You know, so I don't know. You might have been born at that time, but I wasn't. You know. So, but this is what
year that was.
Yeah, I'm trying. I gotta add the numbers. You know, with the time I was born.
But it was just good
because I know
how far back
this goes.
This struggle goes. You know, and it continues.
And even today, you know, you'll see videos of how things look. Anything Trump's been involved in, and I'll say this: there'll always be some crookedness to it. There will always be that Klan element in it, and a lot of people, I would say, even on the conservative side, but I'm gonna say white because I don't really know what all of that conservative and you know all the other terms they use. A lot of them are dissatisfied But you got to remember, they were the people who voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even going back and trying to deal with the 14th and the 15th Amendments. This is why colleges like Harvard, who had specialized programs for immigrants and all of those things, this is what the deportation is all part of, because he wants to weaken black and brown votes. Not just Trump, because Trump can't do this by himself. This is why he got, I don't know if I'll use the term where I don't think it's vulgar, the booty kisses. This is what they do. They support.
He has a long list of those.
Yeah, well, but that's my point, and they're going with it. They go with stuff that runs against the people they're supporting. They continue to kiss
Back now.
Yeah.
The great, big, beautiful bill. What a shame.
And who does it work for? Who is the tariffs working for? What are the benefits? He say, well, we might not see the benefit now, but in the long run, well, we are in such a downward spiral that we can't wait for the long
run.
We can't wait for the long run.
We've been waiting for the long run for a long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we have.
Yeah. So
but
we can't no longer wait for that. For that.
Yeah. Those are the things that's occurring now, and it's affecting them, and it's affecting the immigrants, because they are illegal, but they've been here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. They got, they were able to get some of them prior to Trump, but Trump is building a force now where he's, the ICE people that they hire, they're going to give them $100,000 a year and benefits that'll last them, past their lifetime. It makes folks like us wonder, well, maybe we might need to join to move some of the folks up, but it ain't, it's immigrants that are brown. But next he's moving into, because of the 2025. He's moving. He said, let's start doing something to them. Let's start doing some things that affect what African Americans who built this country, and it's well documented. If you don't know, we built this country off our backs. We built it.
American history is African history. I mean, the United States, the United States history is American. It's like African history, and a lot of people say, well, no, but it is once you know your history.
In the beginning, they brought 12 million of us here to build this country. This country was built from the colonies even before they became states. When you had 13 colonies, they were like, oh, well, let's see if we can. The biggest commodity in America was not cotton. The biggest economy, or the biggest thing that they had, was slavery, because you got people to do stuff for free, build America. That was the biggest. And
to maintain the economy, deported enslaved people to these countries, because we was not slaves. Once we arrived here, we was made to be slaves, but we was not slaves when they stole us.
Right. Right.
And we have grown and developed so much since then, and we have moved this whole country. We have built this thing, and they will call us immigrants as well.
Well, actually, I'm gonna say this, Vi. They didn't call us anything except slaves and property. Because we were not people. We were not people in the beginning. We were not people. New Orleans history is built on slaves. It's built on the African trade. Those people who were traded down in Congo Square, you know, this was
and
one
it
of
was
the
trade because they had a trade. They had skills. They knew how to build and all of that. And they need to have that.
and they were young and strong because we're talking about children. You know, they may be 4 now, but in 10 years they're going to be 14, and they're going to be big, black, strong Africans who can work these fields, who can build these houses. You look, you just go up to the Garden District and you see the beauty of those houses. And I guess the belief is
that was Bill.
Yeah, the belief is that the French did this, because the French were the first settlers, but the French built houses big enough to bring in their enslaved people, to continue to build houses for family members, big enough.
And taught them how to live in houses, how to grow food, how to only take what you need,
And even
no, go ahead. It's just going back and
even the entertainment district in the second part of the city that was developed. You go in the French Quarters, you see all of these old buildings, these old houses, but along with building the first part of it, they had to have a second part of it, which was the French Quarters.
Right.
It wasn't called the slave quarters. It wasn't called the entertainment. Well, some people who go back, they know that it's called the entertainment district. But so now, once you build it, people must come. So what did they use? They use our culture to bring people in from all over.
That's right.
And sometimes they didn't want to bring our people in because of the impact that it would have, especially, I'll say somebody like Louis Armstrong, who had a voice in our community. And we know he's big with New Orleans, but in other places, folks didn't want people who had talent, who had a voice, to be part of what was our culture. We know those things, and I say I know them because I read, I learn, as I continue to drive people around in the city, I can tell them some things, and they'll, to their shock, they're like, really? This is a lot of what the African culture brought to New Orleans. This is why we had one of the biggest trading ports in America, Congo Square. So those things are not understood. Those things, of course.
And the diaspora, it was just right here. So much happened, right?
Right. And people don't understand because they don't know what the history is here. As of today, that's still what we get. We get what? 12 cents in our community of $1.
And they don't stay in our community.
Even at 12 cents. So there's a lot of things that people have erased and are continuing. This is what Trump does. He wants to go to the Smithsonian and, he don't even want slavery to be talked about.
That's right.
Slavery was the biggest commodity in America, everywhere.
You want to erase that history.
We were worth more than cotton. That we was worth more than the cotton that we picked, because again, we picked it for free.
That's right.
Billions of dollars floated in to America because of cotton, but they never acknowledged who were the people picking
cotton.
Right. So that's look, what I give you is history in short.
I remember when I was in school, Ken, as a young girl, we used to have days that we would call, we stage days when we have plays, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had speeches that we would do. And I remember one girl had a speech and she said, she was talking about slavery, but at the end she said, Mr. Johnson fixed the cotton, and that was the black man.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Frank gets the money. And Mr. Frank was the white man. And I was a kid, and it was a long speech that she had. But I remember that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that it was true because, you know, my family, it was doing the work, but they didn't get the money, you know.
Right.
So I remember that. But, you know, another thing I wanted us to kind of like take a moment in solidarity to mourn Mary Joseph passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to make um, um, party, but, you know, because of my illness. But I want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that the community acknowledge the fact that
Mm-hmm.
Mary Joseph had passed, because Mary Joseph was a great friend to the community. I remember doing welfare reform in 1988 through 1998. I worked with Mary Joseph. She helped fund programs to help get thousands of welfare recipients off the road and into jobs. And I just want to say that about Mary, and the community gonna miss her dearly.
Yeah. Uh, the whitewashing continues. We know about the great people, just had that discussion in our community.
Mm-hmm.
We know who they are because we were part of that process
Mm-hmm.
with them. Those that we could even, you know, I can go back to Valley Consolidated and agreed, and it was the only black school in St. Bernard Parish. And it was segregated. You know, we had at that time we had no experience of kind of dealing with white people.
Mm-hmm.
So we kept them on ourselves. We built a strong base. Instead of 1955, segregation was supposed to violate segregated schools in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so because we're talking about the Brown versus the Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even something a little deeper for me, I didn't understand. But you know, when I grew up, I worked in the field, uh, and much of what I remember, you know, they got young guys in my community.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to go a lot earlier than I was because my dad would say, "My son ain't working in no white man field."
Mm-hmm.
But I had a working dad and a working mom. The rest of the folks in my family, not in my family, in my community, they weren't so lucky. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some of them just had moms.
Mm-hmm.
But after my mom kind of convinced my dad, because I was like almost in high school to do this, we used to pick okra and tomatoes. And um, we got, I don't even know if it was $1 for a bushel of okra, but I happened to one time go to the farmer's market,
Okay.
and the guy got, who we were working for, he got $35 a bushel, you know, and he would take 40, 50 bushels because there would be 5, 7, 10 of us out there doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So as the week went by, we've cleared, let's just say 30, $40.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, that was good
That's
because we
good.
can get school supplies. And I'm just bringing that up for the simple reason to say we were industrialized at the time and we made a few dollars, but not nearly close to what the guy who owned the field did, you know. And that's back in my memory.
Yeah. And we're running out of time, but I think this time has been well spent. Just to update ourselves, and we still know that we're going to be discussing this book,
Mhm.
okay, the 1619 Project. we'll be discussing. But what we want to do, we're going to keep the faith, run the race, vote, exercise your vote, go out and vote. Because we can't beat them any other way. You don't have enough weapons or bullets and all this stuff to go out there and shoot them. So we have to use our vote. Use your vote. That is your strength. That is your number one strength. Your vote. Use your vote. And you know, like Jesse Jackson said, keep the faith alive. And you know, he said keep hope alive. We're gonna keep the faith alive. And you know, we're gonna keep the faith and we're gonna run this race. Until next time, Andrew, you have something you want to say?
Well, just just in closing, you will see me, Miss Viola. Miss Viola has a good background when it comes to civil rights. She's been in this community fighting forever. And, she grew up through, like I did, Jim Crow, and all of the other things, and so did I. So we're going to give you what we know. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We're just trying to give you the facts, of what we do with this podcast.
And we always say, it is not me, it is history.
That's right. Not his story.
And so we'll see you on our next show.
Okay. See you later.